All right, we are live. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Real quick, I'm just going to check, make sure my settings are good. Check. All right, awesome. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. Today we're going to be going over Mercedes Vega's case. It's a very tragic case, unsolved. Yeah, just a terrible thing that happened to her, but so much new details have come out in the past few weeks. So much. And so we'll be going over all the new details. But before we get started, we always like to give back by featuring the missing. So since we're going to be covering her case, which is out of Phoenix, Arizona, today's missing is, make sure I got it up there, is Jessica Holtzinger out of Phoenix, Arizona. Looks like she was just 13 years old at the time. Wow, she looks a little older. Only 95 pounds, 5'3", black hair, brown eyes. God, not the best picture. That's sad to look at this. Last seen wearing white Adidas shorts, blue shirt, black and white Nikes with red laces. So apparently she either ran away or was taken before recently. It says Jessica originally went missing from the area of 27th Street and Roosevelt in Phoenix, Arizona, just after midnight on June 18th of this year, so just over a month ago. She was recovered from a vulnerable situation on July 24th. So recently, she went missing for over a month, and they found her just 5 days ago. And then the next day, July 15th, she went missing again around 5 p.m. from the same area. She is an extreme risk for trafficking, which is terrible. And finding her quickly is imperative. She could be in the areas of 27th Ave and 30th Ave and Roosevelt or nearby locations. If you have any information, you can call 602-529-3303. All right. Just one more thing before we get into Mercedes Vega's case. For the members and Patreons, I'm going to start doing something different to kind of switch things up because I've been kind of doing the same thing, and I thought I'd make it a lot more funner for the members and Patreons. And so recently I went out this weekend. We went to the Great Saltaire and the Great Salt Lake. I am from Utah, for those that don't know. So I went out there, did a lot of drone shots, and then talked about the history of this place. This particular place is a venue, a music venue mainly, but it's got a lot of history to it. It's apparently haunted. The Ghost Adventures went there. And so anyway, for the members of Patreons, I went out there and did a video. And so what I'm going to be doing is each weekend, unless I'm out searching, I'm going to be going to places. And so the next time, towards the end of the week, we'll be doing like a vote or something. And, you know, we have Skinwalker Ranch out here. Tons of different places that I could go and take the drone for the members and Patreons. So that's something we're going to be doing. So. All right, moving on to Mercedes Vega. Let me just adjust this real quick. And again, good to see everybody. Thank you for all the wonderful mods coming in and taking the time to mod the channel. I am just making sure this fits in there. There we go. So for anybody that's not familiar with the case, we'll go over just kind of the basic details of her case, and then we'll start to talk about all the stuff that has been coming out in the last few weeks. So this is Mercedes Vega. She was a part-time dancer. She worked at a gentleman's club. But she was working on becoming a personal trainer. Now, at the time of her murder, she was 22 years old, just starting to live her life. Vega lived in Tempe, Arizona, at the Aubrey Apartments. She had 5 siblings and many friends who had nothing but amazing things to say about her. She was really smart. She was really smart, responsible, and obviously just starting her life. But very beautiful. But we're going to learn that some terrible things that happened to her before this that are connected to this case, which really just kind of blows this open. So sadly, on April 16th at around 9:15 p.m., she was leaving her apartments at the Aubreys to apparently go to Dave & Buster's. Here, we'll see in a second, there is just a short clip, which is a surveillance camera that's down in the parking garage. Unfortunately, it didn't capture what actually happened to her. Unfortunately, it happened right after she walked out of the screen. But she was heading to her car, her 2019 Dodge Charger, which is obviously part of the underground parking garage at this apartment complex. And sadly, she would be attacked as she was walking to her car.
It all began on the night of April 16th, the Pillsburys showing us this surveillance footage of Mercedes walking into her Tempe apartment parking garage just after 9 p.m. She was on her way to meet friends.
You can see when she comes out that she does not have a care in the world. She's not paying attention to her surroundings. She's
dressed to go to Dave & Buster's.
That's why Tom believes she had no idea she was in danger when she left.
Originally, I think she had changed her plans. So in this article, it says that she was on her way to meet friends for dinner at Dave & Buster's, but investigators said Tuesday night through interviews they learned Vega abruptly canceled those plans just before her disappearance. Instead, her last communication was telling someone she was planning to go to work. So originally in the news reports, they said that she was planning to go to Dave & Buster's to meet some friends. But apparently, one of her last communications with somebody we don't know at this time said that she was actually going to work because she was an exotic dancer exotic dancer that she had worked a couple nights. Again, she was planning to become a personal trainer. Somebody said Tempe. Yeah, I said, what do I say? Tempe? Yeah, Tempe. Thank you.
Of this was on fire. He received 20
Sorry, let me back this up.
on April 7th.
So sadly, she would go missing. Something happened to her around 9:15 on April 16th. And then sometime early on April 17th, they found a vehicle on fire. And sadly, Mercedes was in that vehicle. And what happened to her is absolutely horrible.
17th, 2023 at about 12:30 in the morning. Department of Public Safety received a 911 call about a car that was on fire. This incident took place outside of Tonopah, Arizona, about 10 miles west of the Tonopah exit off of Interstate 10 near milepost 85.
So just a little bit about the scene. Very tragic. Vega was found deceased in an unknown abandoned car. Now, we have since learned about this car, which we'll go over. There's so much since we last covered this. But at the time, they just said it was an unknown car found by EMS just off I-10 in Tonopah, close to mile marker 85 in the early hours around 1 a.m. on April 17th. So sadly, when they arrived, whatever happened to her just, had just barely taken place, and whoever was responsible had left the scene. So some of the reports about what actually happened to her, and it's just absolutely terrible. They say that she suffered a gunshot wound to the shoulder, which may have actually happened in the garage. They're not sure because they did find blood in the parking garage. But she was shot in the shoulder. She had bleach poured down her throat, and she was also burned alive. Her homicide, basically the cause of death was due to smoke inhalation. They also apparently found gloves and bleach in the car, and Vega's body was laid in the back seat next to lighter fluid. Since this case is still active, if anybody has any information, you can call 1-800-WITNESS for any tips.
In the early morning hours of April 17th, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office says Mercedes Vega was found in a burning car off the I-10 near Tonopah. Now we know exactly how she died. According to the medical examiner's report True Crime Arizona obtained, Mercedes was shot in the arm, hit in the head, had bleach in her throat, and eventually died from smoke inhalation while being burned alive in that car. Her parents believe death wasn't the ultimate goal, and she paid the price for fighting back.
Why would you not just shoot her in the parking garage?
She was tortured.
And so, like I said, we're going to be learning so much new information here in just a minute. But clearly, whoever did this was trying to send a message. And this will make a lot more sense as we reveal the new information.
Ultimately, that if there's no other way.
So she would leave her when she went to go to the parking garage and then was abducted at 9:15. She had her 2019 Dodge Charger. And then, of course, they had found her body in a different car. Not her car, but a different car in Tonopah. But later that day on April 17th, they would end up finding her car parked not too far from her apartments down on this street here where the suspect and I believe suspects, I believe that there's got to be two people involved in this, had driven her car to this area and had parked it. Now, luckily, there is a surveillance camera. Not sure exactly where it's at, but they do say that they do have surveillance footage of the car being parked. Now, we don't know if maybe they just see the car like go through a frame, and then whatever happens is kind of outside the frame. We don't know, but they do say they have footage of the car in that area. So hopefully, maybe they have some details that they haven't released that could help. But again, we're going to learn a lot more about her case, and sadly, this is not the first time this has happened to Mercedes. So again, her Dodge Charger was found on April 17th, illegally parked at the Culinary Dropout. This is about 7 minutes from her apartment. They do always ask for any witnesses that may live out there if they had seen this 2019 Dodge Charger. It has special plates that say LUV 333. If anybody had seen a suspicious person driving that vehicle on the night of April 16th.
22-year-old was found dead in a burning car off the I-10 in Tonopah.
The medical examiner ruled her death homicide, and that's remained unsolved to this day. But tonight, we've learned new details about where this investigation stands. True crime correspondent Brianna Whitney has been following this case closely this past year. Brianna, what's the latest tonight?
We now know there was a change in where Mercedes said she was going last, and the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office revealed there's surveillance footage of a key moment in this case that may provide a lead to detectives. Take a look at this. This is the last known video we have of Mercedes Vega leaving her Tempe apartment complex heading into the parking garage. Her family tells us her car was found abandoned at the Culinary Dropout in Tempe, but they say she didn't drive it there. Tonight, MCSO confirming they have surveillance video showing Mercedes' car arriving in the roadway and being left there until detectives discovered it. Originally, loved ones told us Mercedes was on her way that night to meet friends for dinner, but just revealed by investigators, they learned through interviews Mercedes abruptly canceled those plans just before her disappearance, and instead, her last communication was telling somebody she was planning to go to work. We know she worked a couple nights a week as an exotic dancer. MCSO telling us they've served search warrants on accounts and devices, and through that started working with other law enforcement agencies, including known associates to Mercedes Vega, investigating those and other ties that led to her death. Tomorrow, on the anniversary of her death, Mercedes' friends and family are holding a walk to remember her and continue their fight for answers until an arrest is made. Arizona's family will be there, and we've also put in requests to see the full police report in this case that should reveal quite a bit more. We are still waiting for that, guys.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the new information, which is going to, if you think this poor girl, Mercedes, just what the things that have happened to her are just absolutely terrible. I just can't imagine. Let's see here. I'm just trying to get it in order. Okay, yeah, we don't want to go over that quite yet.
Shoot her in the parking garage.
She was tortured. Ultimately, that if there's no
Victims involved, while Mercedes' ashes now sit on their fireplace across from a wall of pictures dedicated
every single day because this person
Car that she was found in burning?
No, and so
Somebody
that's
else's car.
it's some other car. Her car actually was found abandoned at the Culinary Dropout in Tempe. So they don't know how her car got from point A, the apartment, to Culinary Dropout. Who drove the other car to Tonopah and then left it there burning?
Or whose car it was?
Or whose car it was. No, and so they're trying to figure that out too. There's a lot of moving parts here and a lot of unknowns. But her dad told me, he's like, they could have gone out just a little bit further off the road and left her body there, and nobody really would have known. But it was a show of a crime.
Yes, this was clearly a message sent. So now let's get into the recent information. So here we have Sweet Mercedes, and something happened to her. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get lined up here. So before her murder, 3 years prior to her tragic death or murder, on October 12th of 2020, so this is during the pandemic, she was living in a different area at a different, I believe, apartment complex. And she had just gotten home from work at the Gentlemen's Club. And somebody come up to her. And let me play it here.
Pillsbury is publicly talking about the violent crime.
And somebody came up and held her at gunpoint.
How did you find out about what had happened?
About 5 o'clock in the morning, and I got a call, and it was from an officer.
According to a Phoenix police report and court records, just before 5 a.m., Mercedes was on her way home from the Gentlemen's Club where she worked. After she pulled into the parking lot of her apartment near 16th Street in Thomas, she got out of the car. And that's when a man wearing a mask and gloves pointed a gun at her, demanding she give him her phone, keys, and her bag containing money. Fearing for her life, Mercedes complied. He demanded her phone's password, and Mercedes' mom says she was then shoved to the ground while the suspect pointed a gun in her face.
She had gravel in her back, and I was trying to pick it out and put hydrogen peroxide on it.
Mercedes' friends remember the impact the attack had on her. She never returned to that apartment complex, immediately moving out, carefully choosing a new apartment in Tempe she felt was safer.
I remember she was just scared. That was just the only way. She was trying to kind of start over in a different way, do different things than what she was doing, because I felt like she tried to take it as a lesson learned.
She was definitely like, yo, we need to make sure we're protected and we're very aware of our surroundings. And
so, absolutely horrible that years prior, she had the same thing happen to her where she's arriving at her apartments and a masked man wearing a black hoodie, jeans, red gloves, and has a gun and asking for her wallet, her phone, took $1,500 and some other things, and I believe her purse, and then knocked her to the ground and then took off. And so just absolutely horrible. But then a few months later, so that happened in October 2020. Then we have 2 months later, or no, 1 month later, October, November. Yeah, 1 month later, excuse me. 1 month later, November 16th, a female dancer whose identity has been hidden, and this will all make sense in the end, who had just left the Gentlemen's Club, which is the same one that Mercedes Vega worked at. So we're going to start to see the connection here come around. And as she had parked her car in a parking garage, we're going to hear that often, a man dressed in black, jeans, wearing a mask, with red gloves, approached her with a gun and attempted to steal her phone. Luckily, another person was driving by just as this happened, and it spooked the robber, and he had fled. Luckily, this place had surveillance footage, or surveillance cameras, and had captured the man who was involved walking to a Chevy Impala. But sadly, it had temporary tags. But at least they had some kind of leads to go off. So we have two incidences involving women that work at the same place, happen 1 month apart. And we're going to start to see a connection here. And everything's going to kind of come full circle when it comes to this case here. Still a lot more to go over.
at the same club Mercedes worked at was targeted. Newly obtained documents from Scottsdale police show at 3:45 a.m. a man was seen on surveillance footage walking through an apartment complex parking garage wearing a hooded sweatshirt and gloves. And as soon as the woman got out of her car, the suspect approached her at gunpoint, taking off running when a passerby arrived.
It was interrupted, and fortunately, nothing was taken, and she wasn't assaulted.
As investigators worked to solve the cases, Mercedes noticed activity on her cash apps. A person was trying to transfer money out of her account and into his. After police...
So, here is the guy. And how he got caught is what he was doing is he had obtained her Mercedes Vega's cash app. And what he was doing is he was using her app because he had her login, and so he'd log into her cash app and would send money to his account. Well, the idiot, luckily, was using his real name and identity, so they were able to trace it back to this Cujo Young. They ran his name and found out that he had a 2006 white Chevy Impala. Remember, the second female, the unidentified one, which had the surveillance camera, had seen this guy walking to a white Chevy Impala with temporary tags. So on December 15th, so a month after the second attempted robbery, law enforcement went to his address and they confronted Cujo and they would arrest him. He was armed. They found out that he had actually, before the arrest, they actually found out due to the management at the Gentlemen's Club that they noticed that he had returned back to the Gentlemen's Club because they had recognized his white Chevy Impala due to some unique dents in the vehicle. So clearly this guy had been stalking these poor girls and then waiting until, they do their, they work, and then at the end of the shift, he follows them home and then robs them. After the arrest, Cujo demanded a lawyer and did not speak with detectives. So here's where Cujo's home. I couldn't get the exact address because a lot of stuff was kind of redacted. I could only get like just one street, so I didn't get the exact area. But this is kind of somewhere, I believe, where he was living during this time. And so we can see where Vega was living before she had moved to the Aubrey complex here. And then we have the unidentified victim who also worked as a dancer who was robbed or attempted robbed a month later. I know. I think of the same thing, Taylor. When I heard that, I know, because I grew up in that time, and yeah, who names their kid Cujo? That's a Stephen King book. Was the scariest book I ever read. Yeah, Cujo. Obviously spelled a little bit differently, but yeah. Let me take a sip here, and we'll go over. I think this part that I'm going to talk about, I think this really adds a motive to all this. Looks like we're getting more people in here. I just want to thank you to everybody taking the time to watch the show. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. It really helps. And also, if you would like, do accept donations, PayPal, Venmo. Not only do we cover true crime, but we do go out and search for the missing. And so any support does help the cause. So moving on. So during that December 15th, as he was arrested, and as they were booking him into jail, they did a photo lineup, and which included Cujo Young and some other random persons that obviously resembled Young's physical characteristics. And so they brought a photo lineup to Mercedes Vega, who was staying at a different apartment at the time. And the investigator lead then asked her to select the person who fit the description of the robber, because remember, at the time he was wearing a mask, a hoodie, gloves. But Vega had picked Cujo Young's photo because of his eyes. That was in the report. There is no mention of the other victim taking part in this process. So here we have Mercedes Vega being kind of like the main witness in IDing the suspect here. Law enforcement would also do an audio interview with Mercedes after that, photo lineup, which then was uploaded to the case files. With Cujo facing multiple charges and Vega being a witness in the case, this shows a clear sign of motive to obviously get rid of Vega.
Account and learned the suspect's vehicle information, they were led to Cujo Young, pictured here in his University of North Texas football uniform. Mercedes identified him in a photo lineup, and Young was charged with armed robbery and attempt to commit armed robbery.
Mercedes was a brilliant person and very observant.
Following Young's arrest, he posted his bail, $30,000 in Mercedes case and $15,000 in the Scottsdale case.
It is spelled, Cudjoe, but I believe it's pronounced Cujo. Just if you were wondering. So he was arrested on December 15th, 2020. Keep in mind, this is during the pandemic era. And so he was able to get bond, $30,000 for her case and $15,000 for the other victim in the case.
It's a horrible situation that my daughter went through, not only once, but again when she was murdered.
Mercedes would never get to see justice. As she and her family awaited trial, she was murdered.
D says, yeah, where did he get the money? Yeah, great question. Cujo would make bail over a week later. $30,000 for Vegas case, $15,000 for the Scottsdale victim. That's what they call her, is the Scottsdale victim. I'm assuming because of what happened to Vega, they're keeping her identity hidden, which I totally understand that. Now, this is where things get a little interesting, because obviously here we have a motive. He's going to eventually have to go to trial, which actually is going to be happening very soon. I think he's got a hearing in August, and then they want the trial in October. So, again, to me, this shows clear sign of motive. But because of him getting bail, they said that he was allegedly wearing an ankle monitor. But it's unclear how long he had to wear it. On April 16th, Mercedes was obviously brutally murdered. She was attacked and this is the big thing, she was attacked while she was walking to her car in a parking garage. Sound familiar? It happened to her and another victim. But we're going to learn that those two are not the only one. It just keeps getting just more and more. Then eventually Cujo would be arrested again late last year in November 2023 for selling pills. And this is a hell of a story. And so we're going to go cover that part.
2023. Mercedes was...
Oh, and another thing, I guess, I'm sure probably the law enforcement had known, but they were really kind of vague. You know, a lot of this case has been, they've been kind of close to the vest when it comes to this case with information for the public. But there was always mention that there was some kind of blood that was found in the parking garage. But they didn't, it was assumed that was most likely Mercedes. There was early theories that maybe she attacked whoever her attacker was, and maybe that was their blood, but it was never confirmed until now.
Last seen walking to her car in the parking garage of her Tempe apartment complex.
So just think about this. This has already happened to her 3 years ago. She moved, and they tried to find a place that looked safe for her. And it's absolutely terrible to think that history is going to repeat itself in the worst way.
The apartment she moved to after she was robbed.
So again,
forensic testing in the Mercedes Vega murder case shows the young woman was attacked in her apartment parking garage one day before she was found burning alive in a car.
Late tonight, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office confirmed that blood found in that parking garage is a match to Mercedes. Her body was found last year. Our true crime correspondent
found on the ground at Mercedes Vega's apartment complex next to her parking spot in April 2023 was a match to her.
Based off the way the car is parked and where the blood splatters were, I believe she was turned backwards and opening her door, and they hit her from behind.
Mercedes' parents, Erica and Tom Pillsbury, say shortly after she was found burning alive in a car off the I-10 near Tonopah, they went back to the Aubrey apartments in Tempe.
Okay, people are mentioning buffering. I just plugged in the hardwire. It says it's excellent connection. Let me know how it is right now. I'm just going to wait for a second. Let me know if it's better. Just let me know in the chat. It could have been on my end here. Although it says it's excellent connection on my side. Everything looks good. How is it? Let me know in chat. Is it still buffering or are we good? Refresh, it stopped for me. Okay, it's good now. We're good. Okay. Good. Signal's good. Okay. All right, I'll back that up just a little bit because there's much more to go over. So again, yeah, I will go over that. The Freemen say, yeah, solar flames. Let's hope not. Oh man, the sun is active. It's that. I'm just going to say time of the year, but that's not for the sun. It's just that time of the cycle for the sun where it's more active than usual.
To her car on surveillance footage. That's the last time she was seen alive. Her parents believe the little bits of new information we're learning means her murder is closer to being solved, but it's unfolding at a time where they must also be Mercedes' voice in a different court case where she was a victim years before her death. New tonight, sheriff's deputies confirming blood found on the ground at Mercedes Vega's apartment complex next to her parking spot in April 2023 was a match to her.
Based off the way the car is parked and where the blood splatters were, I believe she was turned backwards and opening her door, and they hit her from behind.
Mercedes' parents, Eric.
So that's kind of some new information, at least about the attack in the parking garage. So it's most likely she was struck blunt force trauma as she was attempting to get into her car, which is just absolutely terrible. And again, they were really vague about the details in the parking garage. So some of this is definitely some newer information.
Erica and Tom Pillsbury say shortly after she was found burning alive in a car off the I-10 near Tonopah, they went back to the Aubrey apartments in Tempe to retrace their daughter's steps. Erica says she saw a tennis shoe blood print and had hoped it wasn't Mercedes because she often wore heels or flip-flops. But when they saw the surveillance footage of her walking to her car in the parking garage on April 16, 2023, her heart sank.
I saw that she was wearing tennis shoes. It completely further confirmed to me that it was her blood.
The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office says Mercedes was found the next day, miles away in a burning car. Her autopsy showing blunt force trauma, a gunshot wound, and bleach in her throat. That parking garage crime scene in a place her parents thought was safe for their daughter.
We purposely went to Cadence and, what she was really focused on.
Despite Mercedes' death years later, this armed robbery case is still in court, but keeps getting delayed. As of now, a trial is set for early October, but Erica says whether it makes it to trial or ends in a plea deal, she will read Mercedes' victim impact statement in front of the suspect and be her daughter's voice in court.
She sounded so strong, and I'm going to feel empowered by her to read it and take her words, and the fact that he's going to have to sit there and listen to them. She'll be right there with me, and I know it.
So she's such a strong woman, very outspoken. It's amazing this case doesn't get more attention. With just how horrific, and now learning that this happened to her before, years ago. So could you imagine? I mean, just the trauma and the PTS, whatever she probably had experienced afterwards, I can imagine. And then for it to happen again 3 years later, and she goes out in the worst way, is just so terrible. And they need to catch the people that are responsible. And when I first started covering this case, I was kind of skeptical, as it seemed like this case may stall for a long time, but it does seem like there is more going on than maybe they are letting the public know, which I really hope. Again, that's kind of speculation, but again, we're going to learn more. There's still more to this. And I believe this guy, this Cujo, is responsible in some way, in my opinion. We don't know for sure, but a witness in his case was brutally murdered. I don't think that's a coincidence. To me, that seems like it was a hit or something. And we're going to find out there's even more to this story.
The next status hearing in the armed robbery case is later this month. Young was arrested in November of last year in a separate Tempe narcotics operation and has been in custody ever since. MCSO says right now they cannot link Cujo Young to Mercedes Vega's death. They say at the time of her death, Young was not in custody, but was wearing an ankle monitor.
Okay, keep in mind what she just said there, that apparently he was wearing an ankle monitor. But then there's another news report that we're going to play here in just a second where they're not sure if he had the ankle monitor on at that time.
Yet I'll send it back to you guys.
So here's a look at just kind of what happened throughout the past 3 years. So here we have October 2020, where, he robs Vega for the first time. And I'll get to chat here in just a second. Then we have literally 1 month later, almost exactly 1 month later, 2 girls that work at the same place get robbed. Except luckily with this victim here, which they called a Scottsdale victim, luckily, when he attempted to rob her, there was somebody driving by, and that spooked him. And then, of course, that got the ball rolling because they had surveillance camera there, and they were able to kind of get some details about, the suspect's car or the person of interest car, and that kind of got the ball rolling. But here we have him attacking Vega at a parking lot. Then we have this one where this is a parking garage for victim number 2. And then 3 years later, Vega is in a parking garage. I mean, a lot of coincidences here. And again, there's even more to this. So I'm going to pause it right there. Like I said, we got some more to go over. Tom N. With the $20 donation says hopefully they will make an arrest soon. I really hope so. Again, I really think there's more going on behind the scenes. And maybe through, we're definitely going to keep an eye on. He's got a court date in August, and then he's supposed to have a trial in October, but there are some issues because I think he's gone through a few lawyers or whatever. So I don't know. But the court wants to get this over with. I'm sure the family does as well. But I just want to say thank you so much, Tom, for the $20 donation. I spent a lot of time preparing these shows, so it does mean the world for the support. So thank you so much. Sweet Dreams, amazing supporter, been with me a long time with the $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, Sweet Dreams. God bless you. You are awesome. Thank you so much. So, moving on.
Her life in the most heinous of ways.
Cujo Young was out on bond at the time of Mercedes' death, and court records show he may have had an ankle monitor. The I-team...
So, remember I just talked about the ankle monitor right there. Let me replay that one more time.
Young was out on bond at the time of Mercedes' death, and court records show he may have had an ankle monitor. The I-team...
May have had an ankle monitor. Now, we know at some point this ankle monitor comes off. We just don't know when, because he will commit another crime later that year after Vega was murdered.
Asked whether MCSO has investigated potential links between the robberies and the homicide investigation and about the ankle monitor. A spokesperson says they, quote, will not comment on this or any other possible connects at this point. In a May 2023 hearing,
the victim in one of the cases died about a week ago of something presumably unrelated.
Young's attorney asked to withdraw from his case, delaying his trial for armed robbery.
The situation, the ethics question that I'm dealing with and wrestling with, and I was instructed by my ethics counsel that I have a mandatory duty to withdraw.
And in November of 2023, he was arrested in a Tempe police narcotics operation, accused of facilitating a large-scale drug transaction in...
So this is Cujo again. Later on, this is in November, so this would have been, what we got, May, June, July, August, September. So what, 5-6 months later after Vega's murder, and this happens.
Involving around 40,000 pills containing fentanyl. 11 other defendants have been charged in the case.
11 other defendants charged in that case. So clearly he's got connections. He is a supplier. And probably knows some really shady people. And who's to say that maybe if he is still on the ankle monitor, he hires a couple people to go take care of this witness that may testify in his trial. easy motive there. Yeah, and that's scary. Fentanyl is, it's really scary.
And while some have been offered plea deals, Young has not. He's been held without bail ever since.
I'm very grateful that he's sitting with no bond.
Young was supposed to go to trial for the 2 armed robbery cases this week, but in a new development after changing attorneys again, it's now been pushed to October.
We all just miss her so much.
Mercedes is no longer here to aid in his prosecution.
In honor of my daughter, I will be there every single day in court.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin, but first of all, do we know if there were any other victims?
It's a good question.
So, listen to what he just said. Is there any other victims? Well, yes, there are more victims. And this story is crazy. And there's still more. There's still more to go over. So let me back that up just a little bit, because this is very important.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin, but first of all, do we know if there were any other victims?
It's a good question. So we've learned that actually about a year before Mercedes and the Scottsdale woman were robbed, a third dancer at the same gentleman's club.
A third dancer at the same gentleman's club
Had the same thing happen to her. She called police after a man wearing a ski mask.
Wearing a mask. We know Cujo was wearing a mask, had followed a lady from the same club back to her home,
pointed a gun at her and took her bag of money. Despite alerting police right away, a suspect was never identified in that case. But this week, Scottsdale police said the violent crimes unit there is now reviewing that case to see if it's connected.
In my opinion, I think that is Cujo again, somehow getting away with it. I mean, it could be somebody else, but in my opinion, has all the hallmarks of the original incidences. Play that one more time.
Where to begin, but first of all, do we know if there were any other victims?
It's a good question. So we've learned that actually about a year before Mercedes and the Scottsdale woman were robbed, a third dancer at the same gentleman's club had the same thing happen.
So that would have been in 2022, and allegedly, he supposedly still has an ankle monitor, but we don't know.
Happened to her. She called police after a man wearing a ski mask pointed a gun at her and took her bag of money. Despite alerting police right away, a suspect was never identified in that case. But this week, Scottsdale police said the violent crimes unit there is now reviewing that case to see if it's connected.
All right, Bianca.
That has to be connected.
Here are 2 more local
How can that not be connected? Three incidences at girls working at the same place. And I just cannot see how they are not all connected. But I do agree with Ellen. Clearly, he could have offered, pills to somebody. And it's amazing, people that are addicted to that stuff, what they'll do for their next fix. And, it's just terrible.
Stories that we're tracking for you at 4 o'clock. A suspect accused of robbing multiple women at gunpoint appeared before a judge this morning. Cujo Young is charged with armed robbery for allegedly targeting women who worked at the same gentleman's club, following them home, then robbing them. Now, one of those alleged victims is Mercedes Vega, who was murdered last year, and her death remains unsolved to this day. After changing attorneys multiple times, Young's newest lawyer was in court today asking for the judge to push the scheduled trial back so he can get caught up on the case.
Jeez.
The state, on the other hand, wants the trial date moved up. Young is due back in court in August, and right now the trial is set for October.
So there's even more to this case. There's even more. So early on, we heard about that poor Mercedes was found in a different vehicle. She wasn't found in her vehicle. She was found burned alive in an unknown vehicle. Well, since that time, we have learned the vehicle. We even have a VIN number for the vehicle. It was a white 2018 Chevy Malibu. Now, Cujo had a 2006 Chevy Impala, so I don't know, if you can really, it was white. I don't know if you can make a connection there at all, but we do have the VIN, so we were able to run the VIN. But all we could find out is that it was a salvage title to a registered owner of State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company with the address of 2299 West Broadway Road in Phoenix, Arizona. We could look at the prior owners of the vehicle, but because now it's a salvage title, we don't have the name of whoever bought this car. And I'll be honest, I've never dealt with a salvage title before, so I can't really speak a lot to it. But here are some of the people that apparently, or the states where it came from. Looks like it originally came from Westchester, Illinois, where apparently it got junked and salvaged. And then apparently, let's see, I'm trying to read this here by the dates. But yeah, eventually it was in Illinois originally. Then we had a seller back in 2019, Berkshire Hathaway in Irving, Texas. I went and did a VIN number records on it, but I couldn't really find really much information about the vehicle. Obviously, we have the address of where I'm assuming the person got the vehicle from, or at least where it's connected to, which is this place here. I'm assuming this is kind of a place where they take junk cars and do auctions, I'm assuming. Let me know if you guys know more about this again. I've never dealt with salvage titles. I kind of understand them, but I've never had to deal with them. So, I don't know if this is connected, but recently they found a man burnt alive in a car. And, well, we'll just play this report. Now, this could be connected. This could be just a coincidence. But I'm going to go ahead and play this because I thought this was kind of interesting. Tim Bray, appreciate all your hard work. Great channel. Thank you so much, Tim Bray. That means the world to me. I try to put a very thorough visual kind of timeline together, and it means the world. So thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate that. You are amazing. And thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting the channel. Again, we'll talk about the members at the end of the show again, about what we're going to be doing.
Here in the Valley, sheriff's deputies found a body in a burned out car near the Phoenix Raceway. Here are some of the aerials from our AZ Family News shopper from the scene at 143rd Avenue and Baseline earlier. Detectives have been out at that scene since 7 a.m. As soon as we learn anything new, you will be the first to know. And just into our...
So this happened. So here is Google Earth. This is where the car salvage place was at. Notice where Cujo's home is. Not too far away. Could be connected. Don't know. And then the car that they had found burnt with a man inside that was burned alive was found over here.
A man found in a burning
that's a little loud.
car back in April.
Phoenix police say the suspects were arrested over the weekend and they believe these brothers worked together. One pulled the trigger, the other helped to cover it up with a fire in the canal. True crime correspondent Brianna Whitney is uncovering more. What'd you find out about this?
So a gun involved, a car being burned, and two people involved, which is things that we kind of suspected regarding Mercedes' case, that it would probably have to take two people since her car was dropped off and then driven somewhere else, and then there was another car, so there'd have to be two people involved.
Yeah, pretty wild story here. There's some details we're still waiting for, but a lot more is answered tonight. We do know the victim is 26 years old, and for a month and a half, detectives were working to figure out who killed him. Now we know police believe what ended in a fiery scene in the canal started with an argument, then a confession to police. New tonight, Phoenix police revealing a jailhouse confession is how they learned what happened back in April when a body was found inside a burning car in the canal.
That's when Jose was able to provide details more in depth to detectives on exactly what took place that night.
Sergeant Brian Bauer says it began when the fire department got a call the morning of April 1st about a car on fire in the canal near 55th Avenue and Osborne. Once firefighters put it out, they discovered a dead body inside, but the medical examiner ruling the victim didn't die from the flames.
In this particular circumstance, it was a gunfire that was believed to be the cause of the death itself.
That's when the Phoenix Police Homicide Unit took over the case. They identified the victim as 26-year-old Jose de Jesus Loaiza and say their investigation led them to the Lomelli brothers, Jose and Roberto.
So I didn't get a chance to, because there was just so much with this case, but I want to look into their case and see if maybe were they involved with pills at all. Because if they are involved with maybe dealing and stuff like that, that'd be an interesting coincidence to, Mercedes' case.
Sergeant Bauer says when they brought them in for questioning, Jose cracked and told police he's the one who shot Loaiza.
One of them was responsible for the murder of the victim. His brother was responsible for hindering the investigation as well as causing the fire and helping with the arson aspect.
Bauer says Jose Lomelli and the victim got into an argument at a home in the area, and that's when Lomelli opened fire. He says the brothers worked together to put the victim into his own trunk, set the car on fire, and abandon it in the canal. Bauer says they're still testing and processing evidence in the case.
And the entire car itself is considered evidence. So that's whether there's bullet fragments that were found in there, bullet holes.
Jose Lomelli's own implication led to a second-degree murder charge, among others, including arson and abandoning a body. Roberto Lomelli is charged with arson and abandoning a body, too. Because it is an open and active investigation, Phoenix police would not reveal how the Lomelli brothers knew the victim and what the fight was about in the first place. Both brothers are due back in court later this week. We hope to learn more there.
So do we know what police led or why they were led to the Lomellis in the first place?
No, and so we do know, though, Sergeant Bauer was talking about it in their investigation. They interviewed several witnesses, and I believe in those interviews is how they were led to the Lomellis. Maybe neighbors heard what was going on, but we don't know if if all of them involved lived in the area, we don't know how long they knew each other, if they knew each other at all. And so those are things we'd like to know, the motive behind it, but a lot of times police will keep some of that close to the vest so they don't compromise the investigation and an eventual conviction if it were to be that way in trial.
It was a strange
Bizarre.
case, those arrests just over the weekend. Brianna, thanks.
Yeah, so pretty wild. Again, I'd say it's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to pull up Google Earth here, where I have everything kind of mapped out of all the incidences, and just kind of let you guys see what you guys think here. And we'll just kind of go in order of timeline here. Yeah, there we go. So, starting off with, we have poor Mercedes Vega being robbed on October 12th in 2020. Then we have literally a month later, a victim that also is a dancer that works at the same place, the Gentlemen's Club, which the Gentlemen's Club is located here. So you can kind of see that it's kind of in between the two girls here. But that happened obviously a month later. Luckily, this victim, was lucky, and somebody was driving by and kind of deterred Cujo Young. Then they were able, because Cujo Young was not very smart and was using Mercedes Cash App to send money to himself, which that account obviously had his real name and identification. So they were able to quickly determine who he was. I only have the street because it's a lot of stuff I went through was kind of redacted. So I only had a street, so, it's kind of somewhere in here where he was living at that time. So we can kind of see where Cujo was living. Not too far from the Gentlemen's Club. Clearly, he was asphyxiated with going to the Gentlemen's Club and was clearly trying to take advantage of these poor girls and follow him home. And then obviously there was another incident, but we don't know what happened. But then going through the timeline, then we have 3 months later, poor Mercedes Vega being attacked in the actually it's here, being attacked at her apartments here while she was going to the parking garage on April 16, 2023. From there, they would have put her in her car. They would have drove her car here. And then that's when you would clearly have to have another car, which would have to pick up, her and the person who attacked her. And then the question would be this car that would she would be eventually found in, which is all the way over all the way over here. I was kind of thinking about it because this is the Chevy Malibu that's 2018 that has a salvage title. And I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, well, likely two people are involved in this. And did they drive two cars and then they drove near her place? But would you risk driving this car if it hadn't been registered and properly had the tags and everything? Or would you have parked it where you were going to commit the deed? And so it's possible that they had probably parked this car already here or had it close nearby. And then they drove the car. So 2 suspects drove the car. Unfortunately, attacked Mercedes. Then one took one car, and then the other took Mercedes' car, dropped that off. Then they both got back in the same vehicle along with Mercedes. Then took that long drive all the way back, and then committed that heinous crime, and then left the scene. And then after that, he was supposedly on the ankle monitor, but we don't know. He could have hired somebody or 2 people to do that, or he could have been one of the people involved. And then, what'd they say? Oh, I forget the date. November. I forget the date, but then he would attack somebody else was followed from the gentleman's club, and they tried to rob them, somebody wearing a mask, but we don't know if that was Cujo. Then we have Cujo again living here at the time, and we have that Collar Salvage place. It's fairly close. Could it be a connection? We don't know. And then finally, this year, we have a man that was shot and also burnt. I think he died due to the gunshot wound. But it is interesting that you have a gunshot plus a car and somebody being burned alive. A lot of the same kind of details. And between the two, here's where that happened, and here's where Mercedes Vegas happened. And 2 gentlemen were involved. They were brothers. One obviously had confessed. So, is it connected, or is it just a coincidence that happened? Obviously, we don't know. But definitely a lot more than we knew, months before, since the last time I covered this channel. And now knowing this monster here, I'm trying to pull him up here, Cujo Young, I definitely think he's involved somehow. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think he hired somebody? Clearly, he was able to eventually get off his ankle monitor and then attempt to sell. What was it? How many pills did he try to sell? So let me go back and see if I can find that part. Oh, right here. Okay, here it is. Yeah, that's it. 40,000. 40,000 pills. I mean, you gotta have some money. I mean, I don't know how all that stuff works, but 40,000 pills, of course, containing fentanyl, which is just terrible. Clearly, he's got connections, and he knows people. And then apparently there was 11 other defendants that were involved in all this. So could one of those defendants have been his help, or he hired to take out Mercedes Vega? Tom in coming in, justice for Mercedes Vega. Thank you so much, Tom. Again, I appreciate all the support, buddy. You are an amazing guy. Please show Tom some love. I've been a huge supporter of the channel. I really appreciate it, Tom. It means the world, buddy. And we got Alan Hinkle, an amazing supporter as well. I got my super stickers back. Thanks for covering this, Chris. Thank you so much, Alan. You are so amazing. I truly appreciate you. I know not everybody can donate, especially, it's towards the end of the month. But just for you guys taking the time to watch the show means the world to me. It really does. But we'll get to some comments and then we'll finish up. Just we'll go over just a couple more things and then we'll wrap it up. This is the same type of scenario that happened in the Brandon Lawson case, I think. Oh yeah, Brandon Lawson. Yeah, another wild case, which we have covered on this case. Tom has done a lot of research on that case. If you're familiar, if you've never heard of it, you'd like to check it out, I've got a whole breakdown on that case. Sunflower says, "Hi everyone, this case hits very close to home as I have gone step by step through the garage and went to the Oh, so you've been there. And went to the culinary to see cameras everywhere. I still not understand how this case hasn't been solved." I agree. And one of the frustrating things to me is why don't they, they tell us, look out for, here, I'm just going to pull it up here. They tell us to, where are you at? Let me blow this up here so I can see it better. There it is. They tell us to look out, for anybody that was out there, to look for the 2019 Dodge Charger. But really, you would have only seen it for just a little bit because they drove just down the street a little bit. What I would be more interested in, obviously I would have this out, of course. More information, the better for the public. But why don't they talk about this? Obviously, this is just an example, but the Chevy Malibu, the 2018 white Chevy Malibu that was used in this horrendous act, why don't they mention that, to the public? Did anybody see this car around, this area over where the car was burnt down? Maybe somebody did see that vehicle, and but because that information is not out there, they don't know any better. So it does kind of eat me up. I feel like they could release more, although I think you could say that about every unsolved case. And yeah, Jesse Jane, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'd like to see the camera coverage of the where they parked their car. They supposedly have some surveillance footage at this culinary dropout. We don't know where the camera is. At least I don't. But yeah, is there something that, could be important that the public may notice that law enforcement could overlook? Blackwater says, "What does that amount of pills even?" I know, 40,000. Clearly, this guy had connections. I think this guy, this piece of dirt, is connected some way in Mercedes Vega. He already, harmed her once. Took her innocence. And for her to be a witness in his case, to me, screams motive. Gelhard says, Chris has yeah, I do have a GoFundMe. It ends at the end of this month, so it goes on for a few more days. If you would like to support that or share it, that would be awesome. We are, so just to finish up, we are going to be going out searching for Aidan here. Probably the first or second week of August, trying to wait for it to kind of cool down. Last time I was out there, I ended up getting severely dehydrated and nearly ended up in the ER. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Aidan Clune's case, missing out of Curry, Nevada. Huge playlist. We did find the first evidence in 2 years, and we would love to finish that case. So that's what donations and stuff that come in, that's what we try to use it for. So just one more time for the members and Patreons, we're going to be doing a vote where I'll mention like Skinwalker Ranch or some other areas, even some places that some true crime areas. And if you'd like me to go there and film, with my drone out there, so we'll be doing a vote. So I thought that'd be fun for the members, so to change it up. So with that, Tom says, I think we want to know all people involved in this, and that's why they haven't. Oh, right. Because there's more than likely more than one person involved, that they're trying to get them all. I would agree with that. Yeah, definitely. If there's more than one involved, for sure. Just looking at the chat here. The Spirit Box. I may start a second channel where I do like ghost and paranormal stuff. This will still always be my main channel, but I always thought that would be kind of fun. Just maybe start something like that up. Be kind of cool. Yes, Sunflower. The 911 call said there was someone standing next to the burning car. Oh God, yeah. If I had time, I would look up that report. I know exactly what you're talking about. They believe that is a person that called it in and not the person that's responsible, although we don't know. But it's believed that that was like a guy, just kind of a passerby that saw this vehicle on fire. But yeah, we don't know for sure. Jesse Jane says, thanks for keeping up on this case. Can always count on this channel for updates. Justice for Mercedes. Well said. I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you to my wonderful mods taking the time to do such an amazing job. Michaela, Jocelyn, Karen, Dee. I know Jennifer has stuff going on Monday. Copper Horse. Thank you to the new members, people that donated. You guys are truly amazing. So, with that, we may have a live tomorrow. If not, definitely Wednesday. So, with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday. And we will see you guys very soon. Oh, I know the people in Peru. I may do that. I may do an update video on that. So, good to see you, Gilherd. Love you guys too. Thank you so much.